Thank you for joining us today for the virtual Sunday service with the Center for Creative Living. CCL, a charter of the Universal Church of the Master, has served and supported the spiritual needs of its community here in the Bay Area for over 20 years.
Good morning. Hi, I'm the Reverend Doti Boon, and this is a Center for Creative Living Sunday service. And we're so glad that you joined us. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. Here in San Jose, the sun is shining, the birds are chirping, people are outside running around. I hope it's a beautiful day wherever you are. And you know, when we talk about beautiful days, that's what Sunday should always be. A time to relax, a time to talk to Creator, a time to be with family. However you're spending today, enjoy it, okay? Now, Connie Habash, Reverend Connie Habash is this wonderful therapist, and she works with families, she works with children, and she's going to be talking just a little bit. And she is such an amazing speaker, and she's written a book, and hopefully she's going to be talking about that today, because it's well written and it really feels good. And the talk today is Opening to Grace. Isn't that an interesting title? How do you open to grace? Well, you're going to be finding out today from her. Now, after I get through talking, you're going to be hearing from the Reverend Ann Corbin. And Reverend Ann is a wonderful speaker, and she is somebody that we've had with us for years and years and years and years. One of the first members to join the Center for Creative Living. And she's our associate pastor. And she's going to be talking and also doing a prayer. Okay? And after we hear from Connie Habash, we're also going to be hearing the music of our wonderful Reverend Janet Childs, accompanied by a videotape done by Reverend Corry Gott. Now, if you wonder about all these reverends running around, our parent church is the Universal Church of the Master. And we have been around since 1908. And yeah, this is an old church. And we want you to enjoy looking at what we're going to be seeing today, listening to what's happening. And if you want to talk to somebody about the Universal Church of the Master, contact me at area code 408-220-5780, and you can hear more about what we're doing. And also, if you'd like to get a copy of our Center for Creative Living Insights that goes out once a week, you can call that same number, 408-220-5780, and give us your phone number so we can reach you if we want to. But also give us your email address so we can send you the wonderful CCL Insights. It's there again. It's prepared by our Reverend Corky Whitaker, another one of those wonderful, wonderful ministers I'm talking about. And now it's time to pray.
Good morning, and welcome to the Center for Creative Living's virtual Sunday celebration. I'm Reverend Ann Corbin, Associate Pastor, and I'm pleased to bring you this morning's opening prayer. I hope that everyone is staying safe and doing well. I have been thinking of you all and sending out lots of love, blessings, and healing energy for anyone that may need it right now. Can you believe it? It's already the end of February 2021. I don't know about you, but for me, the time just seems to be flying by very quickly. In a couple of weeks, we're setting the clocks ahead, and we're also going to find ourselves at the 1-year mark since we began having virtual services. You know, there's been so many blessings staying at home and getting to know myself better and deeper. And of course, some challenges too, as I've been getting to know myself better and deeper. I still miss hugs, and I wonder when we can share them again. I'm sure many of you are wondering the same thing. I guess only time will tell. But let's be hopeful and know that we will be together again soon. So did you get the CCL insights and read about the Jewish holiday called Purim? Thank you, Reverend Doti, for the article. If you don't receive the CCL insights and you wish to get it going forward, you can send an email to safecorky@aol.com. That's SAFE Corky, CORKY, at AOL.com. If you are curious about the holiday, of course you can Google it. The only memories that I have of Purim are from when I was a child. We would celebrate during Sabbath school by dressing up as either Esther, Mordecai, or Haman, and then we would have a carnival. I loved being able to play the games and getting to eat Hamantaschen. That's the triangular shaped pastry that you'll see that has like a fruit filling, dates or jelly or something of that sort. I remember some of the prizes I would win, and one that I remembered the most was getting a goldfish and getting to bring home goldfish. It's really nice to relearn about the Jewish holidays because I didn't pay a lot of attention when I was in Sabbath school, kind of like the way I didn't pay attention in my history classes in high school. But now I'm much more interested as an adult, and I love to learn about these holidays and more about history. So with today's topic being opening to grace, I was reminded that my mom used to tell me that Anne means full of grace, but not graceful. Ha ha. I was kind of a klutz, but I was always very spiritual. So it really seems no surprise that I chose that spiritual path. I didn't choose to be a dancer. I look forward to hearing what Reverend Connie has to say about this topic. She always has such wonderful talks. So let's close our eyes and take a nice deep breath in, breathing in love, light, joy, abundance, and all that feels good to you. Hold that for a few seconds and then breathe out, letting go of anything that is not serving your greatest and highest good, and placing those energies into the virtual basket that you can imagine sitting right next to you. You don't have to take any of it back, for our loving Creator will take the contents and transmute the energies for you. Dearest Mother, Father God, dear Creator, thank you for this beautiful day and for our time spent together virtually through your gift of technology. Thank you for our lives and for all life, our Mother Earth and all her bounty. Thank you for surrounding us with your beautiful golden white light and for assisting souls as they join you in the light when they pass from their earthly bodies, and for giving us comfort when we have to say goodbye to someone we love. Thank you for your healing energy that flows through everyone and to everyone, keeping us whole at all times, especially when facing challenges, whether they be physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. We appreciate how you open us to the truth of our oneness with all that is. You are the shining example of unconditional love, and you let us know that it's okay to love ourselves as well as loving others. We thank you for all of our first responders, firefighters, paramedics, doctors, nurses, grocery and restaurant workers, delivery drivers, volunteers, and more. And thank you for keeping them safe, so we in turn are kept safe. We are grateful for all who contribute to the virtual service here every week. It takes a village. We also thank you for the Center for Creative Living and the Universal Church of the Master for giving us a place to be our authentic selves, for wonderful classes, and for our community of loving souls. Thank you for opening our hearts to grace, and may we receive what we are supposed to receive from these messages shared today by our wonderful speaker and musicians. We are so blessed. Creator, we love you so much, and we are eternally grateful for your blessings. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Blessed be. Amen. And so it is.
Good morning, CCL. So great to be with all of you. Although I miss you in person, I always love our conversations and how you share your thoughts, your questions. It's very interactive. So in this medium, not as much, but I hope you'll make use of the chat. I think the chat is over here on YouTube. Hopefully I'm right about that. And share your comments and questions and responses to what I'm going to share today. Now, I know that we're all in spiritual community together, and our spirituality, at least speaking for myself, is very uplifting and inspiring and brings a lot of joy in my life. And I also know that sometimes it can feel like a lot of effort, maybe even kind of a burden to be, wanting to become enlightened or awakened, that we meditate and we pray or chant or spend time listening to our guides and then journaling that and doing ceremonies and rituals or trying to change our thoughts to be more positive or more spiritually appropriate, attempting to be more kind and selfless in service to others. I mean, I could just go on, right? But our spiritual path and our regular life don't have to feel like a burden or a struggle. And that's what I'm talking about today, is that we can open the door to more ease with the idea of grace, both in our spiritual life and in our day-to-day life. Grace is not something that you often hear about in spiritual communities. You often hear about it in the more religious communities, but not so much in the non-religious spiritual communities. But it's just as relevant to anyone on the spiritual path, whether or not you're religious. And when I'm talking about grace, I'm not talking about like doing a pirouette or being able to balance on your toes. Of course, I'm talking about spiritual grace. And the definition of that I like is the unmerited blessings given to us by the divine. The unmerited blessings given to us by the divine. So that means that we don't earn it. We're not given grace because we're a good girl or boy, or because we're doing things perfectly or always doing the right thing. We're given it because of the unconditional nature of the divine. The divine is unconditionally loving, unconditionally abundant, and it's given spontaneously, not when we expect it, not when we think, oh, see, I did such a good job. Now do I get my goodies? Grace doesn't happen like that. So if we don't earn it, does that mean we just shouldn't bother, shouldn't do anything, just sit back and wait for it to show up? And no, of course not. That's not true. And let's turn to yoga philosophy a little bit for this, because there's this balance between effort and letting go in yoga philosophy that is really appropriate for this. There's a passage in the Yoga Sutras, which are the seminal treatise on yoga philosophy, at least for most of us today. And it says, and I'll share some of the Sanskrit and then I'll explain what this means. Abhyasa and Vairagya are the means to still the fluctuations of consciousness. Okay, so that means that they are the keys to being able to quiet the mind, to be able to silence it so that we can experience transcendence or spiritual oneness, right? So what are Abhyasa and Vairagya? Well, Abhyasa means practice, and it means our continuous efforts in our spiritual growth that's consistent over time and with devotion. Okay, so that's Abhyasa. And we know that we need to keep doing our spiritual practices, just like anything, right? If you want to be good at tennis, I used to play tennis, you have to practice, right? To get better at it, or at least to sustain your level that you're at. The other word, Vairagya, is, I think, really important. and it means non-attachment. We live our spiritual principles and practices because we know it's the right thing for us to do. We know that it's what we're called to do. It's what our heart says is true for us, no matter what the results are. Okay, so we let go of our expectations and attachments. We practice Vairagya, non-attachment, to what happens as a result of doing our spiritual practices. So that's sort of the foundation for our spiritual life. And now, how does grace come in to all of that? Well, we can't expect it to happen, and we can't make it happen, but we can increase our openness and our receptivity so that when grace comes, we're more likely to catch it. We're more likely to perceive it. We're more likely to drink it in and feel it and experience its blessings, right? Because sometimes grace shows up and we miss it. We don't allow ourselves to receive it, or we don't see it because we're looking over here. We're looking through this narrow lens and we're not seeing, all this good stuff is showering on us over here. So it takes receptivity, openness, and awareness to truly benefit from grace when it shows up. And what I'd like for you to do is build a grace catchment system. A grace catchment system. So you know about rain catchment systems, right? If you wanted to be able to capture the rain when it falls and save it for later, like to water your garden or take a shower or maybe even to drink it. I don't know if you can, but you can't just like put your hand outside and then hope that like enough rain shows up. You have to be, and you're not always able to stand outside at the right moment when there's a lot of rain falling. And even if you did, it's not much here. But if you set up a rain catchment system on your roof and everything, then when the rain comes, it's already open, it's empty, it's receptive, and it's set up to catch it and retain it. So let's set up your grace catchment system, okay? And there are 5, I think, keys or things to keep in mind, practices that will open you to be more receptive to grace. The first one is what I call transcending the polarities. Transcending the polarities. What does that mean? A lot of times in life, in fact, most of life, we're labeling things as this or that, good or bad, right or wrong, up or down, us versus them. And this categorizing into polarized perspectives blocks us from grace. It locks us into fixed ways of perceiving ourselves or others or the world or our own life. We get this fixed, like my life is this or that. When you notice yourself judging or slipping into a polarized view of life, try to transcend the polarity. So you identify it. What is the polarity? And then you look at how do I transcend it? Let's look at the example of good versus bad. All right. If this situation, whatever situation you want to look at, were neither good nor bad, what might I feel and experience? So think of a state of mind or quality that could transcend the good or bad polarity. I'll give you some examples of what comes up for me. You could be in a state of neutrality, just standing in the neutral ground, noticing. And this relates to what you might call the inner witness or witness consciousness, the part of ourselves that is quiet and observing, noticing. It's beyond all our thoughts and emotions and sensations and perceptions. You could be in a state of non-attachment, like we just talked about, Vairagya. So without expecting a certain outcome or result, and we don't have to get into that was a good result or a bad result. You might be in more of a state of acceptance. Okay, I accept that this is how it is. It doesn't mean that I lay down like a doormat. I accept and then figure out the appropriate response. And that relates to equanimity. Equanimity is a great spiritual principle. It means even-mindedness, that you neither get too upset nor too excited about anything. And there's a wonderful story about equanimity that I want to share with you. It comes from, I think it's an ancient Chinese tale. And it's about the farmer and his neighbor. So this neighbor is nosy, okay? This neighbor's always coming to check to see what's going on with the farmer. So the neighbor comes over one day and sees that there's this nice, big, strong horse there at the farmer's corral, whatever you call it, right? Excuse me. And so the neighbor says, "Oh, wow, great. You have this big, strong horse. You're going to, have a great crop this year. You're really going to be able to plow those fields." The farmer says, "Could be good, could be bad. Who's to say?" So a few days go by, and then the neighbor comes back and sees that the horse isn't there. And he asks the farmer, "Well, where's your horse?" And he said, "Oh, a couple days ago, he disappeared. He ran away." And the neighbor goes, "Oh no, that's terrible. You lost this really great horse. And now how are you going to plow your fields?" The farmer says, "Could be good, could be bad. Who's to say?" So, the next week, the nosy neighbor comes over and notices that not only is that big, strong horse back, it brought a mate with it. So now the farmer has two horses. And the neighbor goes, "Oh my gosh, what great luck. You've had such good fortune. Now you have two horses. You're going to really have a great year. It's going to be amazing. You and your son, you'll be able to both plow at the same time." And the farmer says, of course, "Could be good, could be bad. Who's to say?" So a few more days go by, and the neighbor comes by, poking his nose into his neighbor's business, into the farmer's business, and notices that his son, the farmer's son, has a splint on his leg. And he asks, "What happened to your son? Why does he have this splint?" And the farmer says, "Well, he was trying to break in the new horse and got kicked and it broke his leg. So I have it in a splint." And of course, the neighbor, being very reactive, is like, "Oh no, that's terrible. You need your son. How are you going to be able to do this all by yourself? You'll have a hard time raising your crops this year." Well, the farmer says, "Could be good, could be bad. Who's to say?" All right, we're to the end now. We're almost to the end, so hang in there. Yay. The emperor's army comes through town, is going to all the outlying villages to look for strong, able-bodied young men to draft into the army because they want to go to war. Well, of course, they see the farmer's son and that he has a broken leg, and they pass him by. So this story is really a great example of grace and blessings and practicing equanimity rather than getting caught up in polarities, to be able to open to and see, well, what could come out of this? Could be good, could be bad. Let's stay in a place of equanimity and not get too upset or excited about anything. All right, the second practice for opening your receptivity to grace is trusting the process. So these all kind of relate. We learn to trust that there is a higher plan happening in our lives. And this is my favorite motto, right? I live my life by trust the process. I share it with all my clients and my students. When we trust the process, we're affirming and knowing that blessings are coming, that what we need shows up when we need it. The outer appearances of circumstances may be deceiving. Often when we look back on our lives to the difficult times, sometimes there were unexpected gifts, weren't there? I know that I see that. When I look back, we matured, we gained wisdom, we may have developed compassion. And certainly I know I have learned better ways to respond to life through those challenges. So we would not be who we are today without the difficulties and challenges in our lives. So practice trusting the process and know that whatever shows up can have blessings and bring us grace. Now, the third practice that can increase your openness and your receptivity to grace is related to that. It's living in the flow. Living in the flow. That was actually my mantra, my intention for 2020. At the beginning of the year, I said, my focus is going to be to live in the flow. And it really helps going through those challenges of the pandemic and everything. It continues for me today. This allows us, living in the flow, to open to receive whatever comes to us and let the divine carry us on its current, rather than, rowing upstream against the current and trying to make things happen and force things to happen. Have you ever done that? It's tiring. It's exhausting. And I've found that when I just live in the flow and I allow Spirit to bring to me whatever's for my highest good, and I'm really open and receptive to that, all kinds of grace showers on me. This really drops us, living in the flow, into a deep state of receptivity. And of course, when we're more open and receptive, more good can pour into us. In fact, the universe loves having an open, empty vessel to pour into. You ever heard that saying, the universe abhors a vacuum? That means it doesn't like having a big empty space. It wants to fill it with all kinds of amazing things. So let yourself be that open vessel by living in the flow and let it flow into you. See how these are all connected? The fourth practice that will open you to more grace is gratitude. You're probably not at all surprised to hear that. It's such a wonderful spiritual practice, practicing gratitude. The more that we express gratitude for the blessings in our lives, the more we begin to see how much we're given. It allows us to perceive the grace, the good that is flowing into our lives all the time. I love what Reverend Michael Bernard Beckwith says. He says, what you appreciate appreciates. So you know how the term appreciation, like with interest on a savings account, that your money grows when it appreciates. So when we're practicing gratitude, appreciation, it appreciates. Everything that we're grateful for expands and grows, and we notice more of it. All right, we'll see that the grace is already here in many ways. Now, the fifth practice that can cultivate more receptivity to grace is surrender. It's one of my favorite spiritual principles. The idea of letting go and letting God, letting the divine, allowing Spirit to guide our life, to steer our life, to care for us. I like to say that surrender brings serenity. And we're talking a lot here about surrendering the internal battle. Our thoughts that cause us fear and agitation and distraction and block us from being able to perceive and receive grace. So releasing all of that internal mental clutter, it brings us quiet mind and peace and serenity. That emptying out that I was talking about, emptying all of those thoughts, all of that internal struggle, surrendering it, and being that open vessel, the open receptacle for grace to pour into through that surrender. So if you'd like, you can join me in repeating these affirmations. I like to also think of them as prayers, intent, that will review all of these practices that really prime you for catching that grace when it shows up. So I'll say them, and then you repeat each one after me. I am an open receptacle for grace. I release the polarities and stand in equanimity. I trust the process and live in the divine flow. I am grateful. I surrender to grace and open to serenity. Well, I hope that this has primed you, has inspired you, but primed you for being a greater receptacle for the grace, the blessings that are showering on you every day. The little things and the big things sometimes. I'm so happy to have been with you today. It's been wonderful to reconnect. Thank you very much, and I wish you many blessings.
The wonders of this life, embracing all that we can hold, we can hold. The magic of this day, reaching into our light, both gentle and bold, that we can hold, oh, we can hold. I will never take for granted what each moment can bring. We can hold on to the mystery. We can open up our hearts and sing. We can sing. Hold on to your histories, wisdom. Break open the innocence of a new way. Oh. Be in the fullness of your kingdom. Reach to the branches of the tree of life that helps you stay, the tree of life that helps us to the wonders of this life, embracing all that we can hold. The magic of this day, reaching into our light, ooh, both gentle and bold. Ooh, we can hold. Hold on to your histories, wisdom. Break open the innocence of a new way, I will never take for granted this day, and bridge to
Thank you for joining us for this celebration of faith and fellowship. We'll be back next Sunday, and for those of you, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can leave them in the comments section. If you appreciate this video and the work that the Center for Creative Living is doing, please press like on the video. You can share the video, and also please subscribe, because that will help this community and the church grow. Remember, in these difficult and challenging times, the opportunity to give and support an organization that has done so much for the community is tremendously important. Please help the Center for Creative Living continue in the wonderful work that it does. We will make it through this. We will be stronger for it. Our faith will carry us. Be blessed, be safe, and have a wonderful week.